how many of us are Chicago centric? All. Woohoo, look at that constituency. And how many of us are from a land that is other?
On the verge of city.
You're Oak Park. You were the first to lock down. We're all very proud.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to Kelsey and Anne. Julia, all right, we're gonna give, oh my goodness. Liz, hello. There are so many people that are joining. We're gonna give it just another minute or so because we do like to be timely. And if you do have the capacity to show your beautiful face in whatever state it is in, we promise to love it and say hi to it. One of the things that we have really noticed in this time of being so disconnected is that, and I'm going to throw a little sales psychology at you. Hey, what's up, Trisha? You're going to remember this part. 55% of communication is body language. And so especially as we're trying to connect and give good presentations, being able to see faces is so incredibly helpful. All right. Welcome, Kelly. Thanks for joining us. We have somebody that has a TV rocking it out in the background. If you could mute thyself. I'm not sure who it is. Oh, hey, Lydia. So good to see you. And by the way, Trisha, killing it with that scarf. So good on you. And those glasses, I just love it. Hey, Erin. Oh my gosh, this is making me so happy. Denise, welcome. Get happier and happier every time I see people popping on here. Am I still, did I get muted? I just got a notification. Nope, I'm on. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we know we're going to have some folks that are coming in through some technical difficulties. Some of them are just emotional difficulties. We understand. Thank you for taking the time this morning. I know that this is probably one of the most nerve-wracking and powerful pieces of what small business owners need to be able to embrace right now, from nonprofits that are trying to keep people connected and keep their spirits up, to solopreneurs and people that are representing brands. The amount of stress that the communicators of our world are feeling right now is really having a psychological impact. I don't know if any of you have felt some of this, but things like brain fog, not being able to get your work done as quickly as you used to. For me, I think I'm getting flat bottom-itis because I keep forgetting to stand up once an hour. And I'll find that I haven't moved for 5 or 6 hours as I'm writing content and trying to process through all of it. And I'm really honored today to be able to pull together some of the smartest women I know. Dudes, that is no slant to you. These just happen to be some badass babes that I know are going to be able to give you some spectacular information today that you can take and start to implement right away. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of the flow of today, each speaker is going to take about 10 minutes, and then we're going to have 5 minutes for Q&A in between. So if you have a question, here's what I would love for you to do. Pop it into the chat so that we can see who you are. And listen, if there's a ton of questions, we may not be able to get to everyone right in that moment. But what I will commit to is that we'll make sure that the speaker gets your question so that they can follow up with you individually. Does that sound like a good deal? Yeah? And so when we go into that question format, what we'll do is we'll call out your name and unmute you so that you can ask it in its entirety. And we do ask that you not do a lot of storytelling in that time, because we do have 5 minutes. We want to make sure that it goes pretty quickly. And you can get the answer that you need. And if you need follow-up, we are going to be making sure that you get, if you've been to one of these small business survivalist webinars before, you know that you're going to get a follow-up with the slides and some things that you can do to help move yourself forward if you need more support than what we're able to provide today. And we also just really want to put out there that if you are in a space, and I'm saying this with love, because we're finding that this week, a lot of the emotional impact is hitting for folks. If you are in a space where you feel like you're spinning, where you feel like things have just stopped for you mentally or emotionally, I want you to know that you can reach out and we will find time. I will find time, even if it is just 5 minutes on the phone to talk you through something or to listen so that you can get to the next thing. So with that being said, I am really super excited to introduce you to the fabulous Emily Lonegro. In 2004, Emily founded LimeRed. Really, if you know Emily, you see in her this amazing drive to not only create high quality brands, but to create communication that is holistic, on point, and really mission centric. She works with a lot of incredible tools like design thinking, and is one of like the high, I don't know all of the ranks of being a B certified corporation, but I know she wins all of the awards that go with it. And I have been blessed for a few years now just to not only call Emily a friend, but to learn from her as she so lovingly provides education as far and wide as she can. So with that being said, I would love to turn this over to Emily.
Thanks, Marie. That was so nice. That was the best intro I think I've ever had. Thanks everybody for coming. Hi friends, I see lots. This is like so extra Brady right now. You're right. I had a crisis yesterday. I called Marie. I was like, can I talk to you? I talked to you for like 20 minutes and I felt so much better. And the crisis was a messaging crisis. It really was. It was about what we're going to talk about. And like overall, I'm going to walk you through really quickly walk you through an exercise. It takes us usually about 2.5 hours to facilitate, but I'm going to just slam it past you. But if there's ever a time to be a human, it's now. So when if you have sent a blanket email or an email and someone comes back to you with a question or saying like, I'm really having a hard time, right now is the time to individually answer that person and see their humanity. It's not time for a form. It's not time for another blanket mass email. It's time for a phone call, a Zoom call, or a very personal, very short email message that invites someone to make a personal contact with you. Everybody's struggling. So when you treat someone like a corporate, like you're a corporate person and treat them like a number, like Comcast would treat you, I think we're going to see a lot of brand attrition for ones that are not treating people like human beings. I know I have shut the curtain on a couple things just in the last few days because I didn't feel like I was being seen. And honestly, emotions are fragile and anxiety is high. So now is not the time to just go back to an old way of coping. We have a lot of, I see nonprofits in here and some business owners. So I want to share with you some messaging, just a very quick messaging session that we did that I've done before, but I'm going to share my screen. Let me know. I hope this works, right? Can you see this reasons for being? So for us, I run a design agency. We're 16 years old this year. We're a certified B Corporation. We do branding slightly different. So for me, messaging is not going to work unless you roll back and actually look at why you exist. So when we do branding as an agency for like a new company or somebody who's trying to rethink who they are, we start with saying, okay, your business needs a soul. It needs to understand how to talk and act and think and behave. It's not an embodiment of you. You represent that being. So we have to give your business a belief structure, or nonprofits usually start with this belief. But what I want to do is codify that. So when we run this workshop, we typically have people use these 4 prompts to really think about, why does your business exist? Why do you matter? Why do you do this at all? It's not about the service that you deliver. It's about your fundamental belief in why you and your business need to exist. So we like to use prompts like, we believe, or the world needs, or we know that, and you'd finish the sentence, this is happening. So it's important that we do this because it has this benefit. And what I like, and I'm going to share these, I'm going to give you 3 steps here, but I'm going to share these with you, is take a time to give yourself 20, 30 minutes and really write the answer to these prompts. And then ask yourself, well, why do I believe that? Or why is that important? Then write the answer to that statement. And then look at that statement and say, well, why is that important? And then you get to another statement that could be like, because all people deserve equity. And that is a belief. The belief isn't that people need design services, like who cares really, but people need to be heard and seen and honored, and their stories need to be told, because that's important for humanity. That's a reason for being. And once you get those things down, then you have a foundation for, who do I trust? Who do I partner with? What kinds of things am I looking for in my employees? What kinds of things am I looking for in my business partners and my networking groups? It helps to really like narrow the pool. I don't know about you, but right now I'm just overwhelmed by the amount of communication I'm getting. And I am actually a closet introvert, don't tell anybody. And my MO is to just completely close off my circle and be very, very small. And this helps me decide, who do I want to bring into that small circle? And then when I do reach out, who am I going to reach out to? So this is step 1. So we're giving your business a belief structure of why does it exist at all. The second step, which is what we're seeing now, is a value structure. And lots of people have done their mission and their beliefs and values. We think about it a different way. Values to us are how we actually act, how we operationalize our beliefs. This has everything to do with how we communicate. Do we do personal emails? Do we consider everyone as individuals? And I've been using these prompts for years, and some of them aren't as rosy as others. So when times are good, how do we celebrate our success? Well, when times are hard, how do we come together as a team? It's best to do these things when we're not in a time of crisis, but it's not bad to stop and really think now, because I think a lot of people are looking introspectively. So these are these 10 prompts that we use. As a team, we bring our whole business team together and do this together. And there are times for quiet thinking, and there are times for group talking. So we want to recognize that different people communicate and work differently, and share their voice in different ways. So these values are like, my favorite value in my company is, and we give them cute names because we're designers and this is what we do, but our value that I love is sometimes you have to do the dishes, which literally means sometimes you have to do the dishes because it's nobody's job to do the dishes. We are not hierarchical. But also it means if there's something to be done, just go do it. Don't ask permission. And no one's job is better than anyone else's job. I run payroll and I also take out the trash sometimes. But the idea is that no job is beneath you. And when you do a job that feels kind of like drudgery, it can make someone else's day or maybe even month to show that you care enough to pitch in. So these are these things that define how you operationalize your beliefs. So that means how do you answer the phone? What you do when you have maybe an upset customer. When someone reaches out to you for help, how do you respond to them? When you're firing someone or having to let go a whole team, how do you do that? How do you message that? What's important to you in that relationship? And this helps define how we actually do our work and interact with other human beings. So when we have this thing where our interaction has changed from in person or leaving our houses to do anything, the sanctity of how we actually interact with these people stays the same. We just change modalities and we're going online, but our quality of our interaction should stay consistent no matter what platform we're using, which is how we've been able to scale to do international work, because the operation of how we do it is exactly the same no matter where we're operating. Now, this is great to do. This usually takes a couple hours to get through. The thing that is the hardest, I think, is I look at quick 2. I'll put 3. This software that I'm using here is called Mural, by the way. It's a virtual whiteboard. It's like one of my favorite things. But this is the other thing that is almost the most critical right now, is personality and tone. It's not your personality and tone as the owner that should come across. It's the business's personality and tone. And personality is like how vibrant we are, what colors we use, what kinds of images do we use, how inclusive are we, what are we, someone's best friend, are we the wise professor? But we have so much written communication right now, so many emails, so many directions, so many things that we're consuming without someone talking. So tone in copy is probably the most important thing that we can get a message, but how it's delivered will probably make or break your customer base. I know it kind of broke me yesterday, and that's why I called Marie for a second opinion. I wasn't sure what this person was trying to say, and if they were just operating in a different way, if they weren't actually hearing me, but tone plays a lot in how someone feels like they are being treated. Marie, can you hold to give me a time check? Let me know how many minutes I have left for talking. 3, great. So tone and personality, I want to give you 2 examples. One I actually wrote for Michelle, who's in the call. My Women Belong group was having a little bit of trouble, so I just broke it up into 4 chunks. She's actually an employment lawyer, and I'm sure a lot of people could use her services right now, but what you want to do, if you're going to write an email, is keep it really, really short and tie public sentiment and what everyone's struggling with to what your business values and beliefs are. So show how you empathize with people. Don't just put the ask right in front. Do this, and this has to be true, and it can be very vulnerable and very personal. And I think that's what we want right now. And I hope we never go back to the old way of corporate communication. Here's where our beliefs come in. We know our survival depends on all of us. Now more than ever, it's important to support your local businesses. So Michelle's customer base is other service businesses and other retail businesses, and she's an employment lawyer. So this is all couched in that service. She's also knows she's talking to a whole bunch of other small business owners. So she has a relatable message here. So first she's going to promote somebody else. So buy a gift card, book a future spa service, call the store. Here are some great people we think you should get in touch with and help support. If you're looking for this service, we can help you with that. And then tie it back to that belief, that empathy that you started up in the beginning. This is really, really short and really, really sweet. And you can use it over and over, but I like to do it in this order. As a first draft, then edit it for tone, edit it for personality. Make sure you're opening the door for other people to get in touch with you. And maybe they're just gonna wanna call you and vent for a minute. That's great. Let's do that for each other. One of the best emails that I've seen is from my friend Tori, who runs Chicago Super Sitters. She had to do a really hard thing. She had to ask her whole customer base for money so that she could survive. And so she wrote this email. A full disclosure, I helped her with her stuff, her branding many years ago, and she's a master at it now. She had to ask parents who are homeschooling small children and working from home for money so that her business didn't fail. And she did it absolutely brilliantly. She didn't follow my outline because I wrote it after she sent it, but what this is vulnerable, true, ties back to her beliefs, demonstrates her values, and is full of a wonderful, thoughtful personality. And she raised a lot of money from the generosity of her customer base with this email. And I'm not going to tell you how much, but if you want to get in touch with her, I'll give you her email. She's one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. So that's it for me. How to do this. I can share you this big long PDF in a minute and figure out how to stop sharing my screen. There we go. Stop share. And that's it.
All right. So I don't think I saw any specific questions come through. Does anybody have a question for Emily? And can we, Michelle, can you set it so folks can unmute themselves?
Oh yeah, everybody
They can. They should be able to.
All right, so unmute yourselves, and even if you have like a case piece that you want to ask Emily that's specific to your organization, this is a great time to do it. Emily, one of the things that you had mentioned was keeping that messaging even when you're having to have communications with other companies that are serving you. Because let's face it, if we are small business owners, we are our brand all of the time, in every breakup and in every coffee meeting, it's us. How do you reconnect to your mission and yourself when you have those conversations?
Like with other vendors and other, like my accountant.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have cut my expectations on myself down quite a bit. Like, I do not expect me to get through the day well, and that's fine. So mostly I feel like as small business owners, like there's no I in any statement. Like I need, you know, you just have to say, I was just talking to my accountant this morning and I just said, thank you. I was just like, this sucks. I hope you're doing okay. If you want to talk, I'm here. And thank you for doing everything that you do, because it's so important. They put together an incredible list of resources for small businesses in a Google Doc format. And I've seen a lot of lists, and this one was really thorough. But I just wanted to check in and say hi and thank you. And I know as an owner, like, I don't expect my employees to ever say thank you to me, because they never will. So it's just nice to say that to another business owner generally, because I think we all kind of need a boost. It's very difficult watching our friends and our own businesses fail or barely succeed or succeed. It's just, it's so in your face all the time, and there's a lot of time to think about things. So I would say before you send any email, take a second and remember that there's a human on the other end of that email. And like, I'm the queen of one sentence, very curt emails because I'm busy, but now's not the time for those. Now's the time to express your humanity and your vulnerability pretty much all the time, as an embodiment of your brand, obviously, but also as a human being.
Yeah. So Emily's asking, Emily, can you unmute and ask that question?
Oh, sure. Hi, it's Emily. Hi, Emily. You know, I was, you know, as a business owner, I run a small nonprofit, but can you talk about some of the things that you're doing internally? I mean, I think we've all seen, you know, companies that are pushing out an external message that you later find out they had to lay off a bunch of employees. Like, it doesn't necessarily reflect their internal culture. Yeah. And I'm curious just about strategies that you've employed to match, you know, like your external message with like how you are keeping your employees engaged, feeling safe, secure, like, you know, kind of all the things that were, you know, as a leader, how are you taking this moment internally as well as externally?
That's a great question. It's really hard to do. It takes a lot of looking past your own ego to do that well, which I don't think a lot of giant companies can do, honestly. Unless they have like B Corp guidelines to really guide that practice and have some accountability. I just don't think that that's the thing that we can do for large businesses well at scale. The culture, the work, the brand work, the business beliefs, values, how we operate, that comes from everyone. When I do it, that comes from not just the leadership, but from the staff, from the stakeholders, from the board members, from everybody. It's not something that the higher up decides. These are our beliefs. That's like the first step to failure. We do it collaboratively by sharing stories and then pull the through lines through the stories together to become the set of values that operationalize. Then the hard part is the leadership actually has to do that. So when I laid off staff, I'm a certified B Corporation, you know, I thought like, what is the culture aligned, values aligned way to lay off staff before BC? I found them other jobs. So I haven't laid anybody off since this started because I've already laid a whole bunch of people off, just for business model purposes. But I found them other work. When I laid off my developer, I gave her 8 of my clients a computer, a display, her chair, and set her up with contracts that'll take her through the end of the year. And I'm also referring all of our work to her. Like, that's how you do things in a mission-driven, values-driven company, is that you take care of people and figure out ways to do that. If it's not a good fit or you're in some other situation, you help them figure out how to apply for unemployment benefits, walk them through the process, what entity to put in that line, that tell them they're going to get $600 extra because of this XYZ. Here are all the other programs you can apply to, and I'm here to help and facilitate that process, if that is one of your values, to like actually facilitate the growth of your staff, right? And then to be extra communicative.
Yeah. So Scott asked a really great question of what have we seen that's been bad or tone deaf? And one of the things that's come up for me is I know that I've seen a lot of messaging to women like, look at, you've got extra time on your hands. Why don't you?
We don't have any extra time. I have no extra time. I have 2 kids. Oh. Yeah. So the other thing that I've seen is, okay, I have read some of the worst email subject lines ever. One of them said, "There's no corona in this email." And I was like, delete, spam forever. Because how ridiculous is that to send in an email when it's life and death for a lot of people? Like, think through the subject lines. You could just send one with just an emoji if you're really worried about it, like a smiley face. But don't type in anything that is going to be questionable unless you're some kind of like insult comic, right? Because now is not the time to try to be funny with a life or death situation. Now is the time to be a human being and show your compassion. I've seen some pretty bad stuff and some pretty awful commercials on Hulu that are just outwardly, obviously selling things that we just don't need right now. It's just gross. And honestly, the thing about Everly and Emily that you typed in there, and I've seen other companies do that too, put on like a culture facade, and but at the behind, I will never, I'm a kind of a hardcore shopper. I will just never participate. I'm gonna tell everybody about it. So not so great.
Yeah. All right. Well, so guys, we're going to make sure that you've got Emily's contact information so that you can follow up with her. But I want to move to our next speaker right now, which I am. Thank you, Emily. That was awesome, and I almost want to start a stream of like bad communication examples because there are so many good ones. So for those of you that do not know Sue Koch, which at this point, it's kind of hard to think that somebody in this world doesn't know her because she has been prolific in her career, both as a social media strategist and working with some of the largest brands out there to help them not only create the strategy, but help their team members understand how to facilitate that strategy themselves, working with organizations like Oracle and Accenture and the National Association of Realtors, the American Marketing Association. Sue is one of their thought leaders. And when I tell you she is the woman that never stops, if you follow her on any of her social medias, you will also see that she is constantly providing great uplifting content that is so brand aligned for her, as she does a great job of blending not only who she is as one of the most sophisticated social media experts in the country, but as a work dance instructor and somebody that we're really hoping is going to do a video of planking while eating in the very near future. And Sue is going to share with us some of the things that are going to help you get through the, oh my God, do I post this? What is tone deaf? Help me understand, because I think we all are having that experience right now. So, Mademoiselle.
Thank you.
You have the screen.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here and go through some tips and trends and techniques and ideas that will hopefully help put people at ease around keeping up that social media presence. Let's see. Oh, my screen just went black. Okay, can everyone see this? Oh.
There we go. Now you're in.
Okay, I'm not going to go full screen because my laptop does not like full screen plus Zoom, so I'm going to keep it here. It's still doing it. Okay. All right. So as we kind of led into the conversation from the idea of what is tone deaf, if you're on social media right now, whether you're on there as a general human interacting with people in the world, or if you're out there as a business owner, we're seeing a lot of things that are tone deaf. We're seeing a lot of things that are not being tended to, perhaps that were left behind from prior strategies. And there's also a lot of things we're not seeing. And I'll get into what that means in a little bit as well. But I think coming off of what Emily spoke about, it's really about humanity. It's about making sure that you're there as a human. There is a lot of fear around being a small business owner right now and still having to sell if you're even able to, and doing it in a way that is really out of service for other people. I try to appreciate some of the tone deaf things I'm seeing with compassion because there is a lot of fear out there. And so I think there's unfortunately a lot of people who are just going about things that are just putting ads on things they used to do because they feel this need to sell because they're losing money and there's a lot of financial scarcity. But on the other side of that coin, that is exactly what's turning people away today because others are feeling that financial scarcity. And those that may not have financial scarcity are still being very smart around the decisions that they're making and who they're interacting with on social media. And there's a lot of things that were coming out at the end of 2019 around social media trends, people's behaviors, psychologies of content consumption that really, now that we're in this time we're in, just are amplified fully around what those trends and behaviors are. And really that is all around purpose, community, and And I had this slide and a few of these things put together from another presentation before any of this stuff even began, because already people have been tuning out to social media. People have been tuning out to the hard sales pitches and the ads because they're overwhelmed. And even more so now, people are overwhelmed. And we're in a time where we're trying to seek peace, but we go to our inbox and we go to our social media and we're being inundated with more things around coronavirus, around fear, around debt, around what to do every day. So if you're a business owner and you're out there on social media right now, we need to start to think about all of those things that are, you know, don't sacrifice your value and be fearful of putting it out there. But let's do it in a way that people know we're of service and we're there to support them. And we want to bring them in to communicate with us. And people are willing to do that if it's done in the right way. And we really need to get clarity on our purpose as a business, as a freelancer, as perhaps somebody who lost a job and has now been thrust into the gig economy. And Emily's exercises that she went through, whether you're a small business or an individual, it's a great thing to go through so that you can have comfort in your message and how you're relaying that to people. And people's expectations are very high right now. People are expecting to be spoken to in a way that makes them feel served and seen. And a lot of us are not experiencing that right now with a lot of the advertising and the people who are opportunizing on what we're experiencing today, right? We're seeing things. I saw an ad even that came out, and I don't know who the brand was, but I wouldn't share it necessarily anyway. But just as things are coming out around more use of face masks, that a brand came out with all of these ads around with scarves and pictures of women wearing scarves around their face. Like, okay, great. So now it's time to sell my scarves because you can wear it over your face. This is the opportunizing that we don't need to be seeing right now. And these are things that will live with brands. They will stay. We will remember these things and they will live on once things resume to normalcy of the brands that we respected and did things well versus those that opportunized in a way that was not comfortable or appropriate. So it's really important to get that message of regroup on what your purpose is as a brand, regroup on what your social purpose is, what your mission is, because when you take those steps, the part that I'm finding is the scariest right now for people is the writing of the posts. And I think for all of the people on this call, I know so many of you and those that I don't, just because you're connected with people like Marie and Emily, I know that none of you here are the opportunizing kind. What we're all really more worried about is, am I going to write this in a way that people don't interpret me as opportunizing, right? We have things that serve people through this time. But if you take that time, if you take those couple hours to go through Emily's exercises, and you take that time to really solidify your purpose and mission, what you stand for right now, if you have employees, how you're treating them, what your social responsibility is and how that can come through, and you do those exercises, when you go to write your social media posts for today, the next week, the next 30 days, you will have that comfort zone and that confidence of the language that you're using, and that is going to come across in the right way. And that goes back to everything around why creating a strategy and a plan first is the best way to go. Because outside of people calling me up and saying, oh my God, I should have taken you up on showing me how to go live, the other biggest question I'm getting from people is, what do I say right now? I'm scared to write a post because I'm afraid of what people are going to think. So if you do this exercise first, I promise you that fear will start to alleviate. And then what I want you to think about is, how do we do that in a way that creates community? That is what people are craving right now. And there's a lot of things that social media and Facebook have been doing already, again, before all of this, to try and create more community online. And so now is the time that we can leverage those things. Now, I want to mention the algorithm briefly, because we all know as business owners with social media pages, and in particular Facebook, it's always been difficult to have your page elevate in the algorithm and have that strength to be seen in the newsfeed. And because of a lot of things happening in the last couple of years, Facebook has been shifting that algorithm to be even more so focused on personal things. And that's great as a person using social media, but as a business owner, that's a little scary. All this work I've been doing on my content, and now my page isn't going to be seen unless I put money on it. Well, unfortunately for the pages, that is getting even worse for us because of people craving community right now. We are recreating our own echo chambers. So if you are involved in groups and you have groups of friends that you're FaceTiming with and messaging with and commenting and engaging with more, your newsfeed becomes more of that. So as brands, it's even being pushed out more. The algorithm is harder to keep up with. So what's really important is to think about other ways that you can use social media. If you don't have a big budget to put on ads, which can also have a different perception in today's world, what are things you can do to continue your presence? Whether that's perhaps leveraging personal news feeds and your employees, having an employee brand advocacy program that's going to help elevate how your brand is being socially responsible and helping to pursue purpose and mission in today's world. Another great way to do that is to create groups. And this is something that Facebook has been pushing for quite some time, is to build community around groups. Think about how perhaps you can create some groups relevant to your brand and business to help people come together, to help ease people's fears, to help serve and support people in a time that they need you. And because in those groups, people have a different comfort zone. People are willing to share more. And it's a great way to keep that community together. And as an example I brought together my side gig with my primary gig, and the dance fitness format that I teach that Marie mentioned started a challenge. And so I created a Facebook group that I thought, I'll get some of my students from FFC and the other fitness studio that I teach at. Maybe we'll have 20 or 30 of us that take class together, can do this challenge together. Well, I have over 600 people in that group now. And it just goes to show the need for connection and inspiration and motivation and community and connection to other people going through something. I never had the idea that that would happen. And the other thing for me personally is I made a commitment. I'm keeping that commitment now, right? So for you as a business owner, if you create a community like that in a way that serves people, it's going to keep you committed, and it's going to keep you to a schedule and a dedication of something that's so important for us to hang on to today. And it's a great way to serve each other. So think about how you can perhaps bring that into what you're doing online. And finally, I wanted just to create a little checklist for things that I've seen happen or clients have called and I've noticed myself that are things we need to keep an eye on. If you have not already, turn off all your ads unless you smartly created them according to some of the things that we've already talked about today. I'm seeing ads for people to make reservations at restaurants. I'm seeing ads for people to come in and shop for their fitness gear for the spring season. I'm seeing ads for people to go shopping at places that are closed. So turn those ads off, regroup. Think about what, if you do want to advertise, what you're advertising and what that messaging is. If you have scheduled content that goes out, some people schedule content up to months ahead. Please pause all of it, review it, see what that messaging is and if the relevance exists, and if your purpose and mission is truly showing through in that right now. And it's time to go back and re-strategize everything that you're messaging and really making sure that people are seeing your consumer focus and your employee focus. And a few final ones, communicating with your network. Are there other brands and people in your network that are not doing this in the best way? You may want to gently let them know, or perhaps just back off from those communications because your brand is also judged by those associations. So check all of those things, check your reviews that are coming in and check your data. And don't worry if your numbers are plummeting because that's what's happening to pages right now. Make sure that your engagement is there, your community is there, and that you're staying in touch with humanity. And that's going to get you through this time. And then you can worry about bringing those numbers back up again later. So that's, I think, my time. We can get into Q&A. And you'll have these slides as well to take a look at. I'm going to stop the share so I can see all your lovely faces again.
I have a question from Sophia. She asks, what are your recommendations around cadence or frequency of posts during this time?
That is a great question. And I think it also depends on where you're starting from, right? If you have a very strong brand presence that people have already expected to hear from on a daily basis, that you want to keep that up. If you're somebody who has been just getting started and now it's kind of hard because of the way the algorithms are working and everything that's happening out there, try to think of a way that you can at least be out there 3 times a week with really quality content that touches people. It also is going to depend on the platform that you're referring to. So there's a lot of depends around, like I said, where you're already at, where you're starting, and what platform you're using. But I would not recommend to come out of the gate as someone who hasn't been doing a lot and start doing something every day. So that's where that strategy part comes in. What are people expecting of you? What can you offer them? And making it quality.
I've got time for one more question. And I think I saw Katie pop up with, Kate pop up with, is there a way to, that we're seeing right now to build presence outside of social?
That is tough. Because without social media, if you have a website with a great blog, or you have a podcast with some great interviews, there are ways of getting that out if you have a strong email newsletter. But if you don't have a strong email newsletter and you don't have a strong social media presence, how are people going to hear of those things? So certainly there are things like Google Ads that may be considered separate from social media because it's not Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. But again, there's a lot of competition these days, and I'll leave that to someone like Scott to talk about at another time, but there's a lot of competition, depends on what your budget is. So right now I would say social media is pretty important to use to get your message and your brand and your mission out there to the world.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate it. I'm sure people are going to have a lot more questions, and I know that you do such a great job of making the information that you give accessible and digestible and implementable, which, like, we can all speak in theories right now, but sometimes we just need the, like, how do I do this right now?
Yeah.
And
please
so,
feel free to email me, find me, connect with me, and please continue to share your questions.
yeah. Well, thank you very much, Sue. You always just bring such great, not only content, but spirit into the conversations that we get to share. I'm going to talk about the scary thing. And you're going to see me geek out a little bit, because there is so much power in being able to step into the scary thing sometimes, because nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to talk about fear right now. And I want to be very clear in this part that we're not speaking to fear in a way that we're trying to incite fear, but that we're meeting people really where they are. And so those of you that were on the last Small Business Survivalist webinar, remember that we talked about some of the psychological foundations of communication and selling. And humans are emotion-based creatures. We simply are. Everything that we do is processed through emotion and then backed up with logic, right? Some of you like to find more logic than others. Enjoy your Googling, but that's where we're at. And one of the things that we know as a core is that if you are Mary Sunshine right now, people are going to tune you out. It can't all be about Tiger King. It can't. I'm sorry. We would like it to be, but we've got to be able to embrace what's happening and talk to it in a way that is sophisticated and on brand and caring. And so last week we actually did an exercise, and you guys are going to get this deck where we went through some of the pain points that people are experiencing right now and some of the fears that they're experiencing. And dependent on who your audience is, they're going to be experiencing different fear triggers in their daily lives, as well as in their professional experiences. And one of the things that I would highly recommend that you do is go through an exercise like this for yourself and think through, what are the pains of my audience emotionally? And it's not long sentences. It's they're experiencing loss, grief. This is a time of worldwide grief. And that's a really scary thing to talk to. If any of you have lost someone, you know that nobody wants to touch grief with a 10-foot pole, almost like they think it's contagious, the grief. And it's so funny because I did, and I see some of you that are here from the session that I did in Schaumburg in February about resiliency and having to walk through grief as a business owner. And within a month, we found ourselves in a position where the whole world is in a grief experience. We've got to be able to acknowledge and speak to folks where they're at right now. So one of the things that is going to be highly critical is that you stay soft and nurturing in your tonality. This is not the time for judgment. This is not the time for you to be the best pandemic mom on the block. Forgive me, but nobody gives a shit, right? We need you to be able to connect with us where we are and to do it in a way that is brand aligned and is going to be able to meet them where they're at. And so like Emily was saying, this is your time to use your why. When you look at your business, how are you solving those fear triggers that people are experiencing? And can you talk to that? Can you actually use those words in your communication, in your social? And the answer is yes. And you have to, because if the only thing that you message is gain, people are not going to self-identify with what it is that you're putting out there, right? It's going to wash over them like the millions of pieces of communication that are hitting us every day. But if you can bring forward what you know they're experiencing emotionally, now you've got an opportunity to speak to them where they're at. And this takes a lot, guys. I'm going to tell you, I don't know about you, but we're working crazy hours. And I don't think I've ever been this tired or brain fogged in my entire life. And I have been through some stuff. This is hard, but we've got to stay present and you've got to stay connected. And that does not mean consuming every piece of negative media that comes out. And I want you to hear that one more time. Do not sit and play in the negative media, but stay informed and stay present and stay consistent in your messaging. You have a brand and hopefully you've got a set of values that you've built your company on. Rely on those. Put them on a sticky note on the side of your computer if you didn't leave all your sticky notes at the office. Make sure that they're forefront when you are creating content so that you can take those values and thread them through the communications that you're putting in. And guys, I will say, excuse any typos or inconsistencies. I was actually creating this deck to speak to parts of what Emily and Sue were talking to. But in creating those communities that Sue was talking about, you have to have value that is based on your values. Because none of us need noise for the sake of noise, right? If it's not something that your folks already have come to you for or connected with you on, find something that's more brand congruous that you can move towards to provide that value. And oops, hang on, get a little flashy here. It is your job as a leader, as a communicator, to make it okay. And we need to have the understanding that right now it is not okay for a lot of people. They are experiencing anxiety and depression and absolute fear and panic. And if we pretend that that's not there, we are not truly being of service to the people that need us the most. When you're writing, and this is again a little bit from last week, we were talking about transactional analysis. And as you're using your voice, one of the things that we do here at Revenue is if we're writing a piece of content or an email that's sensitive, we will call somebody and read it out loud to them to see if the tonality is appropriate. Because when we're having interactions with each other, there's 3 states of being that you're going to be in from a tonality point of view. Parent, and there's parent critical and parent nurturing. Child, which is either child natural, which is very creative and inquisitive and curious and fun. Child adaptive, who is trying to please somebody. Or child rebellious, which is going to just buck the system, right? They're just there to stir the pot. And then we have adult to adult, where actual decision making happens. This is the time where you want to be really in parent nurturing or finding a safe space to play in child adaptive or child natural. Saving those adult conversations for actual conversations really should be taken offline at this point. We don't want to be dictating in a time where conversations are the most valuable thing that we can possibly have. And this truly is a time when you are going to get to learn about your client base in the most authentic way possible. ask questions. If we're not finding out where they're at and caring about it, you're not actually interacting with your audience, right? And so one of the things that I would encourage you to do is, as you're thinking of questions to ask about either how they're doing or where they're at in context to what it is that you do, like Erin Kay creates the most incredible cards that are connected to nonprofits, and she has this beautiful system. If she's not asking questions about how can I help right now, and does your company feel like they're staying as connected as they were before, she's not going to get the kind of feedback that she needs to know how to position. And those micro bites of information are going to help you really set the tone and be present for the conversations that need to keep going. When we're asking those questions, just a quick hit list is make sure that they are open-ended, yes or no questions. It's not the time for it. Give them a space to actually communicate with you. You can presume that they're going through something and then ask a question afterwards, and it will speak to that segment of your audience. They will self-identify and respond. Or you can give them a couple of things that they might be able to connect to in that message so that they have a starting point to be able to respond to you in that particular conversation. And I also do caution you to make sure that it's platform appropriate. If you're on LinkedIn talking about your feelings, you may get a much different response. Heads up. In your deck too, I'm going to make sure that you have some softening statements that you can use. When you're getting those responses and as you are talking to those folks, using softening statements, like, I appreciate that question. I appreciate this response. I get the feeling that you're really in XYZ. It's going to help them receive what you're saying without it feeling like it's overly personal or that it's an attack in any way. So I've put a great list in here for you that you can use in conversation as well as in the communication that you're putting out on your social media. Make sure that you take a swipe through it and then position it for where you really are, and the conversation that you're having. And I know we are getting down to the last 2 minutes, and I always want to be timely. So I've got time for one question, and then I will stay here for anybody that has anything additional if you choose to stay on. Did we have any questions that came through? I'm sorry, I wasn't watching the chat. I was so in the mo.
None yet. It's been opened.
Okay, awesome. Well, listen, guys, I want to make sure that that you're getting as much value as possible from the time that you invested here. So just know that we are going to follow up. We are also going to be having every Friday at 10 o'clock, we are doing a small business survivalist webinar that is completely free and there to support you. And if I think I'm correct in saying that one of our speakers for next week is actually on this call. Is that you, Ms. Green? So next week we are going to be talking about the financial components of where we're going and where we're at, and we've got a couple of funding sources and experts that are in that area. But we're also going to be spotlighting Michelle and her incredible resources on things like, what's your refund policy? Is your contract in shape for what we're about to go through? And Michelle, do you want to give like just a little Heidi ho so they know to look out for you?
Sure. Hi, Michelle Green. And I have a law firm, so I'm a lawyer, and we practice all small business law. And our mission is to make legal services accessible to small businesses. So we know that you don't have a team of lawyers on staff telling you what to do, how to prioritize, how to change your contracts. There is so much going on right now. It is so overwhelming. My team is awesome and is doing a really great job of keeping up with it all. So we're here to try to get all the information that we can out there, but also help you sort of prioritize what's more important and when.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're right on time. Thank you all so much. I absolutely loved seeing every one of you here. And if there is additional content that you know that would be of value, please reach out and let us know. We are going to keep providing high quality information as long as the people that we serve need it. So thank you. Hugs for people that haven't been hugged this month. And we will talk to you very soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Sweet.